Sometimes a place feels like home. Or, I'm going to expand your question, a person feels like home, because this applies just as well to our relationships as it does to the physical locations we're in. And then it no longer seems to fit. Well, two things happen. We keep changing, hopefully. Hopefully we keep evolving, we keep growing, we keep awakening on some level, we keep unfolding. Let's say, for example, that at some point on my path, what I'm really looking for is a lot of external validation. I'm feeling very insecure. I don't want to look in. I'm living a very material, superficial life. I'm young, attractive. I moved to Manhattan. It's fun, it fits, it feels good. People smile at me because I look good. There's a lot of places to go out, a lot of people to be with. It feels like it fits. But then while I'm there, let's say I start doing yoga. And while I start doing yoga, suddenly in my yoga class, someone says something, or there's some teaching that touches me deeply inside. And it starts me on a deeper path. Then maybe from yoga I start meditating. Then maybe I actually find a spiritual teacher. Now I'm no longer looking for people to make me feel good based on what I look like. I'm no longer wanting to spend my evenings out at parties and picking up people and getting drunk and using drugs and dancing till 4 in the morning. Now it no longer fits. So in situations like that, that's when we've evolved. We've grown. You know, we give out here these beautiful tree saplings as prasad sometimes. And when you plant a tree, a lot of times maybe you begin it in a nursery or in a greenhouse, and it has a very small container. And then slowly as the roots grow, you have to put it into a bigger container. And then the bigger container is still too small, and now you actually have to plant it in the ground. But it has to be planted in a place where there's lots of space underground for the roots to be able to grow and expand. That's a good thing. It's a growing of the tree, an unfolding of the tree, a fulfilling of the destiny, one could say, that was in the seed of the tree. So in situations like that, when that internal signal starts to come that this pot is too small now to hold the roots that are growing, that's when we move. And yet again, a lot of times what happens is in our relationships, we talk a lot about filling each other's holes. So I have certain holes in me, and I meet someone and that person fills my holes. That person tells me, oh, you're beautiful. Oh, you're wonderful. Oh, you're the most wonderful girl I've ever met in my whole life. Okay, so that fills my hole. I was feeling very worthless and useless, unworthy. Filled my hole. Now, that person has decided, okay, I've spent the last 10 years filling your hole. That person now is growing, I'm growing. Now they no longer tell me that 30 times a day. But if I haven't also grown, and I still need to hear it 30 times a day, I'm going to start thinking that that person is no longer right for me. Or, as I said, if I moved to New York only because a lot of people on the street, whistle when I walk by in a mini skirt, and now I'm 50 instead of 20, and they no longer whistle when I walk by, well, it doesn't mean New York is suddenly a wrong place. It just means I haven't grown since what it filled for me in the beginning. And so again, we have to investigate and look within. There's not a black or white answer. If the place no longer feels right, simply because it's not fulfilling my holes, then I need to grow. But if I've grown, and like a pot it no longer holds me, then it's time to move to another location. For having that insight and having that awareness at 17. Should we focus on friends our own age, or should we allow ourselves to be friends with those with whom we have more in common? By all means, the latter. Don't worry. What's important about friendship is that it's someone who can understand you. And if what you're thinking about is traveling to India and finding something deeper and more meaningful, and what other 17-year-olds are thinking about is where they're going to get their next fake ID made and how they're going to get into this party and, who's looking at who. Well, why in the world would you want to go backwards? The good news is, though, because obviously it's not easy. You're surrounded all day with people your age. The only alternative during your school day is to be friends with the teachers, which of course isn't quite so much fun. And so naturally the instinct is I should learn how to connect with these people. What I'd say for the time being is, at 17 you don't have much longer in high school anyway. Spend your time in school just focused on your studies. It's not that many hours a day. Focus on your studies so that after school, you don't have to spend too many hours on your studies. We've got this misconception in school that 5 hours of homework automatically means 5 hours of homework. Well, one of the secrets that I learned in school was if you actually pay attention in class, and you actually are focused on what's happening in class, rather than spending the whole time writing notes and passing notes with each other, because I did both, you actually can get through your homework a lot faster because you're not learning it for the first time when you get home. The reason our homework takes so long is we're coming home and learning it for the first time because we spent our time in school writing notes and passing notes, or daydreaming about our recess or what happened in the lunch break. So focus on your studies so that after school you can be with people with whom you actually connect. But the only caveat that I would give you is don't throw necessarily all people your age in one category, because you never know. People younger and younger and younger are awakening more and more and more. You may find that, wow, there's another 17-year-old or even a 15-year-old with whom you actually deeply connect. So as long as you don't make a mental decision that says, forget it, I've given up on all these people, then no problem at all. And the last piece is, in the next few years, what you're going to find is that a lot of people shift from that childhood, teenage mentality into a much more adult mentality. And so having to make friends who are much older than you is not necessarily going to be true, I would say, 4 or 5 years from now, as much as it is true today. Most people tend to mature a lot between 17 and 21. So at 21, you may not necessarily have to be friends with people who are also 10, 15 years older. You may start to find more and more people your age who are like-minded. And until then, just be grateful that you actually are able to find friends at a whole. I mean, of any age, finding people who really understand us and with whom we really connect and who really want the best for us and aren't criticizing us and condemning us and competing with us is a gift. So whatever age, whatever gender they may be, don't worry about it. It's a gift. The fact that you're sitting here in Rishikesh, on the banks of Ganga, having come thousands of miles from your house into a spiritual satsang with one of India's most revered spiritual religious masters, certainly seems to me like you're having enough of an adventure in your teenage years. I'm not quite sure what they mean when they say you should, open up a bit and have an adventure and enjoy your life. I mean, if you were sitting in the library all day long because you had decided that you had to get into Harvard and that was all that mattered, and you never went out and you never met anybody and all you did was study because you had to go to Harvard and you had to be a doctor. That's not necessarily even bad. That sometimes that call is there and it's wonderful. But we could all understand a little more people saying, enjoy your life, get out, there's so much to see, there's so much to explore. But you seem to have gotten out a lot farther. I mean, they mean get out like to the corner diner. You've gotten out around the world. I don't know how much farther out they want you to go. It seems like your spirit of openness to exploration, to adventure, to life, I couldn't, if I had to envision what it might look like to be even more than that at 17, couldn't imagine it. Certainly, spending my weekends, hanging out in diners and dancing and taking drugs doesn't seem on any level like that might be more beneficial in terms of growth or even enjoyment than how you've chosen to spend your time. So I think that probably what's happening psychologically is that we all want everybody to be just like we are, because it makes us feel really good about how we are. So for example, if I drink a lot of alcohol and I'm sitting around at a table with 6 people and they're all drinking alcohol, well, that's great. Because now I don't have to think about maybe sitting here and getting drunk out of my mind is not the smartest way I could spend my evening. Because look, everybody's doing it. But if one person sitting at that table says, I'll have a Pepsi, what happens? You guys are teenagers, what happens? Right, exactly. Why are you not drinking? Right? Suddenly we really care what everybody else is doing. If they order a beer or a scotch, we don't care. Nobody says, why are you drinking beer, not scotch? But why are you drinking Pepsi, not alcohol? Suddenly we all really care. Why? Because if you're not doing it, well, now that's a mirror in my face of the fact that there's actually a possibility, that I actually had an option. And maybe the option I've chosen isn't necessarily the best, because here I am sitting across from someone who chose a completely different option. And so, particularly when we're young and our sense of identity is still very, very fragile, it's really important that we hang out with people who do exactly what we do, so that I feel like what I'm doing is exactly right. This is why people have these cliques and groups in high school, because I need everybody around me to mirror what I'm doing. And so when you say no, my idea of a good vacation isn't necessarily hanging out and watching soaps in the day and getting drunk in the night. I'm going to go to India. What does that mean to them? It means, wow, there's an alternative. And at 17, most people are not prepared to face the fact that there might be an alternative. Hence, they're going to put that pressure